It's 8 p.m. on Sunday, July 7th, 2024, and I was here about 1:30. I moved them into the new row, and you know, my question was, what did that do to the grass? I'm always worried about overgrazing or taking too much. And I come out here and I look at it, and it looks really good. Now that area over there was kind of dead to begin with, so I'm not too concerned about that. But I see a lot of grass here that they missed. I'm seeing good cut. Like here, they only cut this down to about 6 inches tall, which is good. I wonder if they were taking advantage of the forage in the lane here. It's gonna be hard to see because the sun. Let me stand over here. And so I wonder if they were grazing along the lane here. That's probably true. And I don't know how much of that lane, how much area that lane represents. But now they're in this grass, which seems a little better than the previous area, so it's probably going to balance itself out. And I think this is an old anthill. Yeah, that's an old anthill. Ants are always moving. One thing I like about this area is the color of the grass is a deeper green. Like you can see here that this Bermuda grass here is just a beautiful dark green color. And in other areas, it's a little bit of a yellow green, right? And I attribute that to better nutrition in the soil, healthier soil, things like that. So hopefully the cows will get a lot out of it. Let's check up on 21. She was limping, kind of with her back light leg. Oh, she's moving it now. I'm gonna give her a little. Let me get on this side so we don't get the sun glare. There we go. All right, come on. No, maybe. It's hard to tell unless she's walking. Well, what else is there to do? You know, except this guy here, he needs to go with the lambs and the sheep. You're sitting here just doing nothing for me. Just eating my grass and pooping it out. You know? Well, sheep are over there. You just want to be with the cows, don't you? I guess you don't like all the drama. So anyway, that's where it's at. The reason why I move them in the afternoon, if you haven't been following the channel very long, or if you have, you just missed the explanation, is the brick score is a lot higher at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I want the cows eating the grass when it's full of sugar. They're going to get the best nutrition out of the grass at that time. And so I want to move them at 1. And then the second question is, if I move them at 1, when do I do the other move? I want it to be, you know, with as much time as possible between the two moves. And what I did is I calculated the sun rises at 6:30, it sets at 8:30. And so that gives me 14 hours, I believe, of sunlight. Is that correct? 6 plus 6 is 12. So that gets me to 12:30, and then 8:30 is 8 more hours away. So 6 plus 8 is 14, right? Which, you know, if we were further north, we would get more hours of daylight because of the position of the sun and the moon and all that kind of stuff. But where we're at, so we get 14 hours of sunlight every day. And so I assume they're not grazing at night. I wouldn't want them to graze at night. And so I calculated, well, what's 7 hours before 1:30? And the answer to that is, well, it's 6:30. It's when the sun gets up. No, yes, that's correct. And what's 7 hours after 1:30? Well, that's 8:30, right? So I said, you know what? I'll just move them in the evening when it's cooler. I don't have to fight to wake up and get out the door. And I'll move them at 1 or 12 or 1. And it should all balance out. So 8 o'clock is about the right time to move them. So I expect they're going to eat some of the grass, but then they're going to lay down as the sun sets. They're going to get some sleep, and then they wake up, and they're going to finish the grass off. And then I'll move them again at 1:30, you know. Another thing I could do is just move them once a day at 1:30 to optimize the grazing. I do like the twice daily moves. I think there's a benefit to that. I think it decreases the chances of taking a second bite on the same stalk of grass. I would like to do an experiment like what Greg Judy's doing, where he moves them 3 times a day. And then he's even talked his farmhands there, his little interns, they're trying to do 5 times a day. They take turns moving them 5 times a day, which basically means they have to stay out here with the cows and move them every couple hours, right? Every 3 hours. You know, I wonder if that would make a big difference if I came out here and just moved the cows every hour, you know, from sun up to sundown. It certainly would take all the time from my schedule, but would it improve the grass growth? Is it something worth doing? You know, I don't know. I kind of don't want to experiment, because if it works really well, then, you know, that might be something I might be tempted to keep doing, right? So part of this is finding something that works for both me and the animals, and part of it is figuring out what I can change to make the animals perform better on the same amount of grass. So that's where I'm at. This whole row is pretty decent. It's not the best row by far, but it's pretty decent. I'll kind of give you a preview of the next row, which I kind of like moving from the east towards the west. I just kind of like that aesthetic. A little bit more setup time, but I think the cows like starting far away and getting closer to the water. So the next row is just south of the pond. It's going to be a pretty decent row. The row after that is not that good, but then I think the row after that we're going to start getting into serious grass, some of the stockpile. So I have to make a decision when I get to the stockpile. Do I graze 100-foot rows still, or do I bring them in a little tighter with a little less area so they graze a little more aggressively, but there'll be more forage, right? So they don't have to eat as much. So I have to think about what to do there, and I haven't really made a decision whether to keep going at 100-foot rows or whether to slow down. And right now I'm kind of tempted to slow down a little bit, like maybe down to 75-foot rows. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. Now, one other thing that you can't see from this vantage point, but the south middle of the field is not good. I drove through there this afternoon, and I was just, everything was brown. There's nothing green growing there, which is bad. That's not what it's supposed to be looking like there. So maybe I just graze where I have grass and I skip the parts where I don't. So that's what I'm thinking. Guys, have a great day. Take care. Bye.